Dr. Ravinder Jandu, he is with us. He is a young man started his journey from Roorkee in Jalandhar. He is a pass out of PEC. He did his doctorate in IT in UK, and now he is a civil servant there. He has crisscrossed government to corporate to government again. The difference between working in the Indian government and UK government, whole lot to learn for all of us and get inspired. Wonderful to have you, Dr. Ravinder Jandu, here. Am I talking to Dr. Ravinder Singh Chandu, who is a bureaucrat in UK, or still you are a Punjabi by heart?
I am still Punjabi by heart, and with, within UK we offer so many things to Punjabi for promoting Punjabi in our local community, teaching young kids, adults the Punjabi language so that they are able to read, write, speak Punjabi, and connected to my roots as more and travel twice or thrice a year back to my birthplace
To remain a Punjabi.
to remain a Punjabi, to be united with my roots still and don't forget it.
Take us through your journey from your birthplace in Roorkee in Jalandhar to PEC and CETT up to there.
Okay. Yeah, journey has its own ups and downs, as anyone's journey has it. I think from I was when I was in village, coming from the village to an English medium school in Chandigarh, Guru Nanak Khalsa High School, Sector 30. It was a tough journey because the teachers who were teaching in English, I could not understand a single word what was written on the blackboard.
You were around, what was your age?
At that time I was 7 years or 8 years.
So at the age of 7, 8 years, you didn't know even a word of English, spoken English or written English.
Written English I knew capital ABC or ABC.
But you didn't know what they're teaching you.
But the words, some words I knew, but not whole words which were longer words or something, because that's not taught in Punjab.
Okay.
And in Punjab it's only Punjabi till 5th or 6th, and I came here in 4th class. And when so my brother and sister who were elder to me, they said, you just copy what is written on there, and when we will help you out in understanding what it is.
How many brothers sisters do you have?
I have one elder brother and one elder sister.
So they both became your mentor.
Yeah, they both become my mentor because my father, he was in Air Force and he was posted in Gorakhpur at that time. And me, my mother, and we are in Sector 20 Chandigarh, and that's how. And when the summer vacation came, so I had to study very hard, more than the others, and understand English, know English, what it means, what's written in the books, how I can be successful. And when the first term exam comes in September, because at that time it was September, December, and March exam. So September exam came, and I didn't know how to ask for the extra sheet also. And I was sitting, my whole sheet was filled, and then I was sitting idle, what should I do now? And then somebody else asked for the sheet from the teacher, and I asked also, I need for me also. But the results came and I topped the class.
Oh, wonderful. So
And
within one session itself, you caught up with the others.
I caught up with the others and moved ahead of the others.
Oh, wonderful.
And then I think that's when my competitive spirit came into being. And I topped the class in the final exam in 4th, 5th. And then it was the journey that I should be topping the class every time.
So that became your
Kind
your
of
minimum benchmark.
minimum benchmark, and then there was a with the other students it was kind of a competition. Now I will be beating you, I will be beating you in this, and so that's where I think the whole journey started. And then I had my school fees written off for that, and throughout my whole life of school, college, I did it on scholarship never took.
Coming to your college, PEC,
Yeah.
uh, which subject you chose and why did you choose those subjects at that time when you really took a decision?
Okay. Yeah, when I was in school, my dad was in 3BRD. He was an engineer, electronics engineer, and then I think that inspired me for being engineer, and so I took engineering,
So you were
non-medical.
inspired by your father?
Yeah, so non-medical in DAV college, and from DAV college to PAC, and got into electrical engineering. So once that was done, then did my masters over there, and after that I joined CEDT at that time. Now it is CDAC, and with CEDT, the journey was quite different into electronics and software, both working for mostly for the government plus some private.
You're talking of which year?
I'm talking of 92. I joined CEDT.
In 92, you were talking about computers, you were talking about softwares,
Yeah.
okay, and you were in a government setup. How bureaucratic it was really to work there?
I think it was, if I see from the work, work culture, it was quite open, but yes, there were definitely challenges with, if I compare it with the
Private sector?
private sector, the salaries and other things were not as per the private sector. And but there was a compulsion because my father died in 91. I was doing my masters, and I wanted to do my PhD at that time. Got scholarship, but could not do it, and then I had to change my way of life so that I get into the role job.
That is, you're talking of which year now?
I'm talking of 91.
Okay. So
then
that's how you got into CEDT?
yeah, that's how I stopped my PhD. No, I can't do PhD because financial constraints.
So,
So I started with the job in CEDT. Then, of course, the journey it has its own ups and downs because of some government structure, plus there was some openness of doing the work, but there were challenges. You have to be very strict within a process, within this rules, limits. You have to do some things,
even the budget.
even the budgets. And then we got a very good project, which was technology development of Indian languages for Punjabi language to develop a complete word processor. So me and another colleague of mine, we started working on it, and in between he left CEDT, he joined another organization, and then I continued with that, and we completed that software initially in WordStar, and as similar to MS Word, we
That was in Gurmukhi.
in Gurmukhi, and
So you are claiming you are the first software developer of Gurmukhi Lipi.
yeah, it was not. We didn't call it Lipi. It was later on introduced into Lipi.
Okay.
So it was called Sampadak at that time, and the spell checking algorithm is always, we claim, it's the best one because it. If I give you one example of the software spell checking algorithm, if you type some first character or first alphabet of the word wrong, then the option you get is always not what you are linking. So all the word processors, the spell checking algorithm is based on the first character, correct. So we introduced that also into it and improved the efficiency. For that I had got 2 copyrights of the software.
You still are holding those?
Yeah, it is basically CDAC, and I am the first author, still first author holder, plus the other team members. And for that, my name was proposed for the National Award, Devang Mehta National Award for Innovation and IT in 2003. After a few years, when we have developed, till that time, until now, if I check CDAC's, no one. Individual has never been nominated for that prize for national award. So nomination was the best thing which has happened to me.
So you remained in CEDT till
2005.
2005, and you see, working in a government department from 91 to 2005, one gets casted,
Yeah.
which means You are set to a routine. You'll go there, work the way the government works, and from there your leap of going to UK in 2005. Was it tough to take a call on this when you are in a secured government job? Suddenly you're wanting to.
It was tough because I had my H1B earlier and I didn't go to US. I had interviewed with Microsoft, didn't go there.
A sense of insecurity? Then
It's not sense of insecurity. I was satisfied that yeah, that's fine. I'm doing the one of the good works and enjoying my work, R&D kind of thing. And then in 2004, UK government started highly skilled migrant program. Then I thought, okay, let me have another go at it. Go to UK for some years. My brother was there, and he said, "Why don't you come here, work here for a couple
What
of
was
years?"
he doing there?
He's a chemical. He did his MPhil in chemistry from PU, and he's into chemical engineering, electroplating firm as a quality control manager.
He's an entrepreneur there, or he's
No,
working in a
he's
firm?
working in a firm. So they do electroplating for various industries, automobile and aircraft and other industries. So he said, "Why don't you come?" Initially, I was in, "Why should I go? I don't want to go. I'm satisfied here." But then I thought it would be a nice experience working in a developed country. That it will give me extra experience, enrich my experience, maybe make it a more mature, better person. And then I 2004 applied for HSMP from here. They cleared the application, and then I didn't want it to go. Took my 6-7 months. Okay, I will still think.
After receiving your visa,
Yeah,
that was given for how many years?
that was for 1 year.
1 year. You still took 6 months to take a call.
Yeah.
And that to go into UK.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was okay. Shall I go? Shall I not go? Then office. I talked to the office. They said we will. I had some leave, so they said, just if you want to try, just go and see if you want to be there.
So you took a sabbatical.
Kind of a sabbatical, and because I was not interested as such. Then me and my mother went over there. Initial few months were struggle because everybody was asking, wherever you go for interview, do you have a UK experience? No, I don't have. It was a catch-22 situation. So how can I have a UK experience when I got the visa now? So that went on for couple of companies. Then Accenture role came up, and then the interview. There were 3 rounds of interviews, and they selected me as project manager with their organization. So that was kind of a
That was a starting of a new journey.
new journey because Accenture is one of the big 4 consultancies in the world, and its name is recognized, and that gave me a leap of faith also that okay, start it. And then I was headhunted into another organization which is 3i Infotech.
Hey, come back again. How many years you worked with Accenture?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
So working in a government environment and suddenly jumping into a corporate sector, and that too of such a huge repute. What was cultural shock for you?
Um, I don't think so. There was a cultural shock to me because I was working in CDAC, CETT, now CDAC. When I resigned, it was CDAC. I think I was working in a similar kind of a setup. My own working style was similar to that. I do more work rather than I'm not in a government kind of setup. So I think that was not a shock to me. Yes, there was a difference of work culture, definitely in a way that when you are in that country and there is no boss, it's kind of a matrix organization, and that when you see that hierarchy is not there, that gives you kind of a slight bit of shock that you are on your own, plus you are managing the teams across the globe, but still there is no hierarchical structure, and there is no, even though these bigger organizations have a huge kind of a process, bureaucratic setups, approvals, process, and so on. But still, I think they have managed it in an effective manner that people feel that they can contribute more and enjoy their work.
Okay.
So that was not a shock for me, at least, because I had been working at that similar kind of mindset as a professional in CDAC. I never worked that I am in a government. Now it's safe, I don't have to work. So I worked as a professional there and then worked as a professional there.
Wonderful. Then from Accenture you migrated to?
Then I migrated I was headhunted by 3i Infotech. They were set, because that 3i Infotech has taken up acquired a UK based organization. So they wanted somebody from UK and who has Indian touch, who has worked in Indian scenario. So that was, they were kind of completely financial consultancy, financial softwares they make for banking, for asset management, for stockbrokers, insurance sector.
So that gave you insight into all these sectors?
All these sectors it gave me. We implemented softwares into different banks in Switzerland, in UK and Middle East. Sorry, I can't name the banks because of confidentiality of some of them. So we implemented anti-money laundering software, factoring, insurance products. And then again, it was kind of a very sad job going on into, then.
What was the salary jump from CDT to Accenture, from Accenture to, what was the...
That would be difficult to compare from Indian salary to UK salary.
I'm just... So how quickly you're becoming rich is also to be...
Because if you compare that, then because the 100 multiplying factor will be very difficult.
Still, considering this, okay, from Accenture to your next.
Yeah, that would be, from Accenture to 3i Infotech, I think I got another 20% rise of my salary.
And you were there with that company for how many years?
1 year. And
after 1 year you left them?
After 1 year, it was another organization which was a venture capitalist coming up into a play that for Greenstone Carbon Management, which was into carbon accounting, carbon management, which
big
is big area of environment management, sustainability. So they wanted a product which they can sell within a short time, and then all the employees who are working with them.
The problem is, I mean, normally what we say is that one has to be an expert of a domain. But what you are talking about is, you're moving from a government domain to a private sector domain, and from within private sector domain to financial sector to carbon areas, environmental issues. Is it a seamless movement, or you really had to slog for it?
I think if you prepare yourself well, because from government setup to first my jump into completely corporate sector process, because becoming an expert in process industrialization of CMMI, ISO 27001 or ISO 9001, that was a completely new role for me.
Yeah.
And then coming from that into anti-money laundering and financial sector, that was a complete. I think it's a God gift. Plus, you prepare yourself well with that knowledge. I'm a quick learner and quick seeing the things, and then moving from financial to carbon accounting was, this is a new area. I can make a bit better money. And
so, what was source of research for you? Was it newspapers, or was it watching television, or you were hardcore researcher for every other activity what is happening on the world?
I think both. Seeing what's the current trends going in the industry sector, that where the industry is going to be within the next few years, and taking a quantum leap of faith within that.
So there is an entrepreneurial streak there also, because you are taking a risk of moving from one domain to another and succeeding there also.
Yes.
Okay, great.
So that's kind of a calculated risk you are taking, that you know that this is the upcoming field, and you know that these are the projections by various Gartner or Verdantix or other organizations, and this is how the industry trends are moving on. I should be there. And after a year, I took it to kind of a, I said, enough, that's okay. Now, one of my colleagues was in King's College London. He said, because we were talking about my PhD earlier, he did his PhD, he was doing his PhD at that time. And he said, there is a role there, and my guide is can have a look at your research proposal. So I had put my proposal to him earlier also, but that time he said don't do it because you are not a British citizen, you have to pay a higher fees.
Yeah.
So come after a couple of years, and by that time you will
So
be
when did you get the citizenship?
2009.
So you went in 2005.
Yeah,
In 4 years you got the citizenship.
yeah.
Wonderful.
So that was so I was British citizen in December 2009, and then 2010 March I applied for my PhD proposal. He said wait for
So what is the difference between somebody doing PhD who is not a citizen in terms of your cost of it, and now when you are a citizen, what is the cost difference?
3 times.
Okay.
So if at
Yeah.
that time the fees, normal fees was 3,000 for a British citizen and 9,000 for an international student.
Okay.
But now they have also increased the fees. So for a British citizen it's 9,000, and for an international student it's 27,000 pounds.
Still it remains
3
three
times. It still remains the 3 times. So I paid 3,000 per year. So I started as a full time for a couple of years, but then I said,
So you left your job,
yeah, for 2 years.
and how did you survive from that 1 year or whatever
2
time
years.
it took?
2 years
2 years
without job.
without a job. Was it frustrating or you were mentally prepared, you had the resources?
Yeah, I had the resources, so I was mentally prepared to do it.
Wonderful.
And because I had made enough
Was there
money.
any risk in it?
There was a
If
risk.
you're out of job, you're out of market, so
There is a risk, but that's where you have to put your journey in a positive way. That why you have taken it, why you have taken this jump, why you have so quickly moved within the jobs. Well, that's the question that you are not faithful to a company, you are not loyal to a company. And if I hire you, you will not
You will
stay.
not stay here.
You will not stay with us for another 1 year, and then you will leave. So you need to put that why you have done that.
yes,
And
you should
if-
have, yeah.
if I had a valid reason and I can convince that yes, this is how I made it, and I wanted quick money at that, up to that point because I wanted to do this. So that PhD thing was still lingering on in my mind that I had to do it. So then I told that I would do it, and
Wonderful.
then I did it.
So it took 2 years for you to complete your PhD.
Not 2 years. Because then I thought I should go for part-time PhD now and start my job role again. I started with a small-time consultancy. One of my friends started it, and then I joined him.
That
So-
was your entrepreneurial or it was again a job?
It was entrepreneurial with my friend.
Okay.
He's still running it. Yeah. So I said, okay, I will join you because that is giving me the independence of doing my work also plus his work also, and workload balance I can do with my PhD load, so that and some finances also start
Also
trickling.
coming in, yeah.
Started
You're taking
coming
care of
in.
those.
And then I did it for another couple of years till 2013. Then I started. Like I said, I had enough now, and I will start with JP. I started with another corporate bank, JP Morgan,
Okay.
as an assistant
So
vice
you
president.
completed your PhD in 2017?
I completed in 2017. Yeah.
You completed your PhD in 2017
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Okay. Then you joined the...
JP Morgan
JP
as
Morgan.
a assistant vice president for technologies. So that was good journey with the JP Morgan, that understanding how the big banks work and managing their journey, managing very big budgets with them, managing the teams and their different platforms, how we can manage it, different messaging systems and so on.
I've got a question, small one.
Yeah.
When you say you were managing teams in other organizations also, Uh, that team comprises of, you said they are sitting in various countries.
Yeah.
There were Indians also in the team. So when it comes to skill set assessment, how do you see the quality of Indians working on this domain as part of your team as compared to
Most of the Indians, they have very good skill sets,
very good skill sets?
and the people I have worked are very skilled, experienced professionals working in a professional way. But some of them still try to take the shortcuts. Some of them
Within the organization?
within the organization, which sometimes firebacks on them, which is not good. Transparent, open communication, no lies. If you can't do a work, just say no. Don't say yes to everything. If you can't do it, just be open upfront in saying no, that I can't do it because of 1, 2, 3 these priority of work. And you can analyze that work, and while analyzing that work, and that respect the elders, don't say no to them, yes, please them. So it doesn't work in the professional way.
Yeah.
You have to, if you can't do it, just say, no, I can't do it. It's not that, yeah, I will take the work and say I will do it, but after 10 days are still pending.
Pleasing your boss, is it important?
Pleasing your boss, yes, it is important, but not that important in the corporate sector.
So, in this company, JP Morgan, you were there for how many years?
1.5 years.
Again, 1.5 years.
Yes.
And then you joined the government.
No. Then I joined another financial consultancy. So we were made redundant, and then I again concentrated on my PhD for a couple of months, and then I started with a consultancy, another financial, one of the big
You
financial.
know which year now?
2014.
2014, okay.
Yeah. So then basically started working with HSBC through that financial consultancy. Before joining the financial consultancy, there is a gap which was there because of after the redundancy, couple of months of break, and then my mother had a brain hemorrhage.
Oh, she was here,
No, she was in UK.
okay, with you.
Yeah, with us. So that
That
one,
became your priority too.
that became my priority for a couple of months over there. First month was very critical.
Oh.
She had her right side almost paralyzed, and bringing her again to the same level, not to the same level, I would say 95%.
To the possible.
To the possible. So that was another challenge. So she recovered well. She's fine now. So that was a big up and down for me. So then I started with the financial consultancy, worked with them for 1 year, and then I thought, no, I'm not getting what I want, because I can make money, that's not a problem in financial consultancies, corporates, but still I cannot touch the breadth of citizens' life. I cannot work with people, I cannot make changes to the life. I can
That
make
made an
changes.
impact. Yeah.
That made an impact. That
Which
will-
year this idea came? I mean, this whole thought started coming in
2016.
2016.
Yeah,
Okay.
it started coming in because my mother was there, and I was going through that life of seeing the doctors helping others. I said, why can't I help the others with my
Great.
skills, experience, technology? So I started looking at the opportunities which could be there. So then I thought, the working with the government, working for the citizens of country, that will make an impact, and I can work the various breadth and depth and heights, wherever you want to say, and I can really make an impact rather than making money for myself or the companies. And that's where I started with this.
Then you started looking for a job in the government.
Then I started looking for a job in the government, and started this year, 2018. So
This year 18.
yeah, February 2018, I started with them as a civil servant.
So when you say civil servant, are you equivalent to an IS officer here?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. And your pay package is, you see, you have worked in corporate sector. So, as you were saying, here in India, CET pay packages were lesser than the corporate. What is the pay package guarantee given to you when you joined the government?
I think when I was here till 2004, the 5, the pay packages were less in government, but after 7th and 8th pay commission, the pay packages are very good in government nowadays.
Here also.
And they are not less nowadays
As compared to the
as compared to the
Private sector.
private sector. And over there, yes, they protected my salary,
They protected your salary which you were getting in corporate.
which I was getting in the corporate.
Wonderful.
To an extent, but with the caveat that there are the benefits which comes along with it. So that the pay package was never a concern for me that I am joining civil services for pay. I knew that I will get some cut in it, but they protected it. That's fine.
In India, a civil servant gets, in addition to salary, he gets his house, servants, a vehicle, and so many other facilities. How much government of UK pampers you as a civil servant?
You will not get a PA. You will not get a servant. You will not get anything. You will not get.
You cook for yourself.
Yes.
Are you saying that none of the civil servant in UK has been given a house by the government?
If you are a minister or a cabinet officer or MPs or MLAs, then you are given a house in London for the time the sessions are there. Civil servants, most of them will have their own houses. Highest rank, yes, a permanent secretary or those kind of things which
They may have a house
may-
given to the government.
yes.
Okay.
But the facilities like servants or things, probably you won't get.
So which means bureaucracy in India is more pampered.
Yes, definitely.
Good, great. Which officer in the government is authorized to look at my personal information there?
Depends
And to
on
what extent?
if it's an income tax related, let's say just one thing,
Yeah.
then the income tax officer over there
Can only see.
can only see that information as a platform to see that yes, wherever it is possible, why not reduce and have a quick disposal of the cases.
Mhm. Any other area which you think UK has taken a leap which we have yet to catch up in terms of government delivery of services through digital platform?
I think at one is of course used by the disabled people. Lots of things which India needs to learn from European or Western countries, not just UK. Let's say the disability access. You don't to the disabled person who can't walk. Can he go into, let's say Chandigarh is one of the best cities, modern cities we call. Can that person take his wheelchair or drive his wheelchair into Sector 17? No.
Yeah.
Or on the roads in anywhere in this city? That's what we call it, the modern city. Is it? But that's there, that the first access to the people who are not able to walk or they can drive their own scooters, their own mobility scooters, are all along the city.
The GST rollout which we had in India, if you compare, I don't know whether you have time to look at the way we are managing it, but your taxation, there is a GST there?
No.
So what is the taxation process there?
Just a VAT,
It's a VAT. So there is no GST. It's a VAT, and
standard VAT,
and that VAT is uniform across UK,
across UK.
and so it's equal to GST only. Okay. So how much user friendly is that, and what are the linkages between the financial transactions and GST when it comes to integrating these two to match those figures in online assessment of sales and all? How is it managed there?
I think it's same uh, that when the bill is done, everybody will do. You can't do a bill without a VAT.
How much UK government trusts the businessmen, and how many businessmen really are very strict? I mean, they don't do hanky panky.
I can't comment on that because
Judging.
that will be judging. But definitely there will be some. If there is a cash transaction, then there could be chances of. But I'm not. I don't have that data to say that 10% or 20 or what. I can't
How
comment
much
on
government
that.
relies on the honesty of the people? When you design your system, how much you're trusting the person who is doing it?
I think in UK you are honest till proven guilty. So government
The
trusts you.
onus of proving yourself not guilty is on me, or it's on the government to prove that I'm guilty.
Yes, it's basically they will trust you if you produce that. Okay, my sales is this. They will trust you, unless there is something.
They find out
They
something.
find out something that you are you have purchased this much
So
and sold.
is it on me to prove that I'm right, or is the assessing authority to prove that no, you're wrong?
Hmm. I think you don't have to prove yourself right over there. You are honest, whatever you say. Like if I say that if you plead guilty in a court, honestly, that if you have done a crime or something, if you plead guilty, then your chances are that your punishment will be lesser if you don't plead guilty.
Okay.
So they will honor the honesty of the person always.
So that's how the whole system has been built.
Yeah.
I'll narrate a small story and I want your comment on that. I went to Southall Gurdwara, sir, the main Gurdwara,
Mhm.
and I gave £50 note to him, and he was issuing a receipt to me, to the Sevadar, sir. And then he said, "Give me your address."
Yeah.
And I gave him address of Delhi. He said, "No, I need a local address." I said, "Why do you need my local address?" He says, "Because we get refund from the government."
Yeah.
And that struck my mind that such a beautiful system UK has evolved, where just to claim refund from the government, they are maintaining accounts.
Yeah.
Okay. Otherwise, since the gurdwaras or the religious institutions, they're not getting anything from the government, they're not accountable, they don't prepare their accounts, 99% of them. And if they are preparing an account, the honesty of preparing an account, there, if the donation is X amount, there is a tendency to show X plus so that they can get more from the government.
Yeah.
Here, if they're getting X, they will show 50% of that into the account.
Yeah.
So this whole system is evolved, keeping this only in mind, that the accountability of these
No, I
the
think-
gurdwaras, or what is
no,
the fundamental?
The fundamental is all the gurdwaras or mandirs or masjids or churches, they are come under charity commission. You have to register yourself as a charity. That government supports any charitable work. They say that we will support that. It's kind of a social responsibility, extra from the government. That okay, if your charitable trust is getting £100 as a donation from valid taxpayers in the UK, then we will give £28 for that.
Yeah, contribute.
We will contribute that. So that means for every £100 I'm getting another £28. And all the accounts of Gurdwaras are audited at the end of year by the chartered accountant of your Gurdwara, and then those audited accounts have to go to It's not internally, but external to the Gurdwara. The chartered accountant should certify that he has seen that accounts are in order, that all the donations came, the such they have spent on salaries, infrastructure, electricity, gas, water, food, or whatever it is, and then whatever the balance, it should be in the bank. And then that audited accounts goes to the charity commission.
Oh, it goes to charity commission.
Yes. And then they audit it, and if they find something wrong, they can close the charity.
So, here it is. A young boy coming out of Roorkee from Jalandhar, crisscrossing all boundaries, becoming a doctor in UK, and now a bureaucrat without a house there, without any servant, and still feels happy to be in government because you want to serve a larger cause. Wonderful meeting you, brother. God bless you. If there is one message you want to give to any other young child from a village like Roorkee, that if you can travel this much, anybody can. The message is yours.
I think if with your hard work, yes, when with the God's blessing, at the end, everyone can do the hard work, but have the faith in God that yes, you can do it. Just follow your heart and be patient with the result, not that in a day a Rome can be built. It cannot be. So you have to slowly push yourself and be consistent, perseverance with your efforts, and then you can succeed.
Wonderful. How would you like to pay back to Punjab with your advisories, with your participation? Punjab deserves your contribution in any area where you think, whether it is IT education or IT infrastructure, whichever area, are you enthused to support a project which can be done under your guidance?
Yes, I am always ready for Punjab or for India, for at any level, wherever I can contribute for betterment of services, for the life of the citizens of this country. I am always open for advisory, consultancy, or working on a project, guiding the project. I'm open for those things and happy to help whenever I am summoned for it.
So, Doctor, you're really enthusiastic with a lot of hope. I'm sure youth in Punjab will get inspired by your story and many other stories which you are going to document very soon and put them on the wall. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.